It's the final hour of OverDrive on a lovely Wednesday. Filling in for Hayes Noodles and the O-Dog. My name is Brendan Dunlop. Happy to be alongside a couple of guys that wore that sweater for the Toronto Maple Leafs and are on this show a lot. Frankie Corrado and Peter Holland. We've had a pretty good couple hours, boys.
Buddy, we're off and running, man.
We've around the horn. We've really hit everything.
Flying.
Time is flying.
Is there a sport we haven't hit yet?
No. We hit every sport in the first block.
Let's get Brian Mudryk on later to talk some curling.
Talk a little curling?
Yeah, we'll call him Muddy.
Your boy Mudryk.
Yeah.
He's still doing the Habs, right?
Oh, yeah. Dude, Muddy's everywhere.
There you go.
Curling, Habs, you name it.
Buddy's all
good golfer, too.
We've been everywhere. I usually am. It's one of my few flaws, I like to say, is clock management. Not just in radio, but in life. You don't read, and I don't do clocks well. You didn't read, sorry. Pete reads. You don't read, Frankie. My bad.
That's why you schedule emails.
Fine. No. When we do a show again, that's why I schedule 8 a.m. emails. I lead the league. I'm going to bring you a copy of D-Row My Life, so you can get a little soccer reading in there when
I'll
you're
read your book.
In between.
No, I'll go buy it. I'll support you. I'll go buy it. I don't want it for free.
I enjoyed our OverDrive arbitration. I'm a rookie, and I didn't get enough of it. So, Grappler, we got a few more before we get into some more baseball talk with Keegan Matheson?
Yeah, I mean, at least one more, just because I think it's an interesting conversation. And give us at least a few minutes before we get Keegan on here.
Give it to us, buddy.
One Canadian Canadian hockey fans are offered the chance to have one Canadian NHL team make the Stanley Cup final, but we don't know who that team is until the Cup final. Do Canadian hockey fans take it or leave it?
But then, do Canadian fans care about other teams as much? If they do, if they know who it is in the moment, and if their team lost, I think, right? I feel like the consensus is still majority of the country would cheer for a Canadian team, but only if their team had put up a fight.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree. I think if the Leafs were in the Cup Finals, every Canadian hockey fan that isn't a Leaf fan is going against the Leafs specifically. If that is, it's same thing. If the Habs are there, Oilers, you name it. So I would say they leave it. Like if you don't think if you know that your team is not going to be in that Cup Finals, you're like, I don't care about you. I hope you lose, and I hope you get swept when you lose.
Especially if you're a Toronto guy, right? Like, imagine the Montreal Canadiens are the team that ends up in the Cup Final. There's no...
It was, man.
Well, no, I know, and that's what I'm saying. There's no way as a Leaf fan you're cheering for the Montreal Canadiens to win the Stanley Cup, and vice versa.
But one thing to just add in here is, like, if you do accept this, it means your team essentially has a 1-in-7 shot of reaching the Cup final.
We're not math guys.
Dude, keep the 1-in-7. Like, keep it. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm a fan, I'm like,
those 1-in-7.
No, I want nothing to do with 1-in-7 because it's 1-in-7. Could be Calgary, could be Edmonton, Winnipeg. Like, if you're sitting there as a Leafs fan, you're like, 1-in-7's not good enough for me to take that deal. I will leave that deal.
You just want to live in your 1-in-32 life instead of 1-in-7?
That's all I heard.
1-in-32, same as 1-in-7 for me.
No difference for you.
No difference.
Yeah, there we go.
Talk to me when we get into like 1 out of 2, 1 out of 3.
This is why we got to get you reading, Frankie.
I tell you, Frankie fractions Corrado.
Dude, I read at like a 5th grade level at least.
Yeah?
Something to brag about here on a Wednesday on OverDrive.
I'm pretty sure the guy who usually sits, actually, I guess Peter's usually in, or O's in, to see that.
Where are you going with it? Where are you going with this crap?
I'm pretty sure O has said that he reads at like a 3rd grade level. So you got him beat by at least a couple years, Frankie.
Dude,
you got to be careful with taking shots at Pete right
you're
now,
taking shots at Taddy, taking shots at O.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's big man life, right? Because he's 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
Am I accurate, or are you 6'2"?
It's not. I'm between 6'3" and 6'4", but we round up to 6'4".
You've got a menacing nickname. You work with a couple of ex-NHLers who are physically afraid of you.
Violent golf swing, too. The grappler.
Really?
Violent.
So he'd be the one going after the bear. Trying to steal the
I don't know, Grappler. You wouldn't go after the bear.
Not
but
a chance.
I'll tell you what, if the bear saw you take one of those pelts in the middle of the fairway, the bear would be scared.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Yeah, I want nothing to do with a bear, though. I will, like, he can take my clubs. A bear could take my car if he wanted to, because there's no way I'm chasing a bear into the forest.
Well, you know what? Like, the thing about Canadian hockey fans and maybe not liking other teams, it depends where you are in the country.
100%.
So I grew up in Toronto, grew up a Leafs fan. I get drafted by Vancouver. And I head out there, and, whether it was people working for the team or people around town, like, some of the question I got was like, oh, this must be weird for you coming out to Vancouver being drafted by the Canucks. And I said, why? Why would that be weird? They're like, oh, because of the rivalry. And I'm like, we don't really think it's not a rivalry for us. I think you guys don't like, Toronto people and Leaf fans, but
exactly.
we don't really think about it that way. Like the Leafs There's an Ontario thing with the Sens, and there's a thing with the Habs that goes back years and years. But it's just different. Like if you're from Toronto, there's not a big rivalry going the other way. I would say Toronto-Winnipeg, there's a little rivalry because the games have been hostile.
Yeah.
Well, I would also just say as a player, it's your job. You're not really thinking about it from a fan perspective. Like,
exactly.
I can't go play there. Grew up hating those guys. You're like, no, they're offering me a contract. Where do I sign?
Although Milan Lucic had some comments on, I think it was Spit and Chicklets. He was on with those guys, and he was like, Toronto had checked in because, he has a history with Brad Treliving, and he's like, right. I can't bring myself to wear that jersey. And I think Josh Georges, years ago, wouldn't waive his no trade to go to Toronto and ended up going to Buffalo. Like that was the solution.
Buffalo over the Leafs?
Yeah.
Well, I think was it Hal Gill who had a great line? Someone asked Hal Gill, where's the best place to eat in Buffalo? He said 2 hours down the QEW in Toronto.
That's, there's a lot of good Buffalo wings joints out there.
Well, Keegan must go to Buffalo every once in a while. Keep track on
some guys
on
love playing there, by the way.
Guys love Buffalo.
Yeah.
I bet Keegan knows like a sneaky spot in Buffalo where he's having whiskey, and he's got a good scene going.
We got so much more to ask him than just about Bo Bichette and Yinjin Ryu. Yeah, Keegan Matheson, MLB.com Blue Jays reporter, joining us on OverDrive. Keegan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, guys. You've almost got me sweating thinking about Buffalo here because I remember back in the pandemic season when I went down and lived at a hotel in Buffalo for a couple of months covering the Blue Jays. And every day after a game, I would walk trying to find an open place, trying to find signs of life in Buffalo. But it was not quite the most happening nightlife scene down there. Lots of hotel stays that time.
Yeah, well, that'll be a different time. But pre-pandemic, is it Chippewa Street in Buffalo that's pretty popping? There was J.P. Lossman was the quarterback of the Bills, and every time he had a bad game, they're like, well, when was he last on Chippewa Street? I'm pretty sure he was there Wednesday, Thursday night. People would grill the guy. Oh, man. Well, there we go, Keegan. I wasn't expecting to start talking about Buffalo cuisine in this segment, but that's the beauty of doing these summer shows, my friend. Your thoughts on Ryu's return last night, how he was able to weather the storm after being torched in that first inning. What do you think of Hyunjin Ryu on the mound?
No, in terms of Ryu, so encouraging to see him back. This is a guy who has been a giant in this sport, both here in North America and in Korea as a pro before coming over. An incredible pitcher. Great to see him back. He nailed this recovery, guys. I mean, when I'm covering Tommy John surgery next year, 5 years from now, Ryu's will be the one I'm referencing as a perfect recovery. Along the way, he hit every box, really did a great job with that. Came back down 20, 30 pounds, too. Credit to him. But the problem and the awkward part right now is that the Blue Jays need him to be good right away. And for a guy coming back at his age from Tommy John, that's too high of a bar to clear. So there's going to be a bit of a balance here these next couple starts where you're debating between how much progress is enough this quickly, because what Ryu did yesterday should be enough. Just getting back out there, looking like a big leaguer, that's enough for Ryu. But the Blue Jays need him to be the Hyunjin Ryu of old right away. That's a ton to ask. And that's why it's a bit awkward coming back right in the middle of a playoff race when there's not a lot of time to stretch yourself out and get refamiliarized.
Well, speaking of Blue Jay players who need to have a little bit of a resurgence and turning into a little bit of their old selves, I saw on your Twitter you posted that Vlad Guerrero Jr. was one of the lone players on the field hitting off a tee. Is that normal for him on a game day, or can you comment maybe on where he is mentally?
Yeah, that's not a normal thing you see from Vladdy. He was down at home plate on the field all alone, hitting off of a tee. And when you're hitting off of a tee, the hitting coach Guillermo Martinez was watching. That's typically something you're doing when you're really focusing in on something in your swing, mechanical, because you don't need to see a pitch. You just need the ball there as a target, working on something for Vladdy. And all season long, he has not been himself. But when you look at the past couple of seasons, this 790 to 810 OPS has been where he has lived. Vladdy is such a representation of this Blue Jays team because he is so much more talented than what his numbers show. You can say that for George Springer, for Dalton Varsho, for a lot of guys on this team. The talent is incredible, but the numbers aren't there. And all that matters is the numbers. Vladdy is another example as well, guys, of someone who has the underlying stats. The analytics and the fancy stats all point towards these numbers getting better. But like we've heard around this team all year, when you keep hearing it's going to happen soon, it's going to come around, it's August. We're in August now, and it hasn't yet. So you really need it from Vladdy because what he's capable of is so rare. He is capable of turning this entire team around. Just haven't seen that sustain itself.
Is there optimism that George Springer can be a player that turns things around? Like, he is in a dark, dark place right now. And you talk about Vladdy, hitting off a tee, working on technical stuff, mechanical stuff. Like, I wonder how far off George Springer is from getting down there and working on something that changes his approach at the plate.
Yeah, he'd better be close. This has been ugly lately for George Springer. An OPS under 700 for Springer doesn't make sense. That's not who he is as a player. And, of course, guys, everyone is dealing with some sort of aches, pains, soreness at this time of year. I'm tired and sore, and I just sit here and type stories. These players are worn out. But we haven't had the big injury with George Springer this year. In terms of major stuff, has been healthy. You'd expect this to have been a big year for him, and it just has not been. If he gets out in his first at-bat tonight, that would be an 0-for-35 streak, which would tie a Blue Jays record. That's not a record you want to have. So Vladdy and George Springer, the two best examples, I think, of players the Blue Jays simply need. They are not going to win or go far if these players are playing to that level. They need them to be not just stars, but superstars. They are capable of that. That is in their DNA, and in Springer's case, he's done that before. Such a postseason performer, and that's what he was brought here to do. But to perform in the postseason, you got to get there, and that is what is at task right now.
We're talking with MLB.com Blue Jays reporter Keegan Matheson. Keegan, what do you make of the deadline then? Should the Jays have added a bat?
Yes, but it's a tricky market to be in. Now, part of me wants to say and think that, hey, if you need a bat, you figure out how to get one. You pay a bit more. Maybe you look into some names that were not as popular on the market, guys that still have some team control left. But needing one more big bat has been the conversation with this team, I think, guys, back to January and February before spring training. And I remember saying it a half dozen different times that, you know what, you go into the year, figure it out, get a bat at the deadline. That's usually simpler. I don't think it was as simple this year. You saw some guys like Tommy Pham, for example, move, but there weren't a lot of those classic deadline veteran sluggers available. And the Blue Jays, I think, ran into a market that did not match what they needed very well whatsoever. So that's a tough spot to be in because the Blue Jays haven't really used the last spot on their bench much. It's been Jordan Luplow, it's been Nathan Lucas, but we have barely seen those guys whatsoever. It's Ernie Clement at times as well. There's got to be a better use for that. Maybe internally there's a prospect that can come up and help out. But after Jordan Hicks, which was an aggressive move, I was expecting more deals than we saw, but those didn't come to fruition.
Is that like, ownership or management kind of looking at this group and saying, like, we're not fully sold that this group can be a group that goes far? Like, yeah, there's more teams in the mix now because there's that extra wild card spot. So maybe there's more teams thinking that they can make a playoff push. But, if you really want to make something happen, there's always a price that can be paid to make that thing happen. But, when you look at this group, is that belief there? And what would that be that you're seeing on the field that makes you think that there is a belief in this group?
Yeah, there does always have to be that price where you can go out, and every player does have a price. If Shohei Ohtani was on the market, there would have been a price. Mike Trout has a price. Everyone does. And the Blue Jays, this is something they would have decided, I think, well before the deadline. How high are we willing to go? What's our comfort level? I think when they throw around buzzwords like process, collaboration, blah, 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 that's what you're talking about, is having these meetings, setting a comfort level so that when the time comes, you're not panicking. And this market clearly just didn't line up with what the Blue Jays were willing to spend on a hitter. And frankly, I don't think there were that many options on the shelf for them. It was a tough spot that didn't line up as well as most recent deadlines do. So this is, if anything, a bet on who they have here. And it's a bet on what we've heard all season from the Blue Jays, which is this will get better, this will turn around soon, and it'll happen quickly. But again, it is August, and for as many expected numbers and as many analytics point towards this improving, it has to actually happen, because the scoreboard is not going to show you the expected stats. It's going to show you how many runs the Blue Jays scored and how many runs the Orioles scored. Last night, the Baltimore total was a little higher, so I think the Blue Jays need to get a lot more from this core, and it's got to happen quickly.
Well, we agree. We've been certainly chatting about the Jays needing a bat for sure. But going back to the pitching, right now the Jays are in a 6-man rotation. There's chat that they might drop back to a 5, and if they do so, it's probably between Ryu and Manoah. And who would it be, in your opinion, who drops off of a starter position?
I don't think that works naturally, which is why this is such an interesting couple of weeks ahead, guys. Hyun-Jin Ryu, I cannot see him in a bullpen. A guy coming out as a left-hander, throwing 89 to 90, who sometimes needs an inning or two to get those velocities up. I don't see that working for the Blue Jays. And even Alek Manoah, a big, tall pitcher with the slower delivery, long arms, I'm not sure he can come in and ramp up that quickly. That's not natural to Manoah. If there is a world where 2 weeks from now, Yusei Kikuchi is part of that group, he's someone who at least makes more sense as a reliever. We saw that last year. But at the same time, the Blue Jays have a lot of relievers right now. So this can be branded as a bit of a good problem. There's a lot of options, a lot of names we're saying here. But I don't see Ryu or Manoah being natural fits to slide into a bullpen role whatsoever. I think in both cases, the Blue Jays are really hoping they work in the rotation. But there's going to be a bit of a tough call in 2 weeks. Now, the likely answer, if I were a betting man putting a dollar on this, probably something happens in the next 2 weeks. Someone gets tired. Someone really struggles. But if you've still got 6 a couple of weeks from now, that's another bit of an awkward place where the Blue Jays will have a real fork in the road. They'll need to make a big call there.
Their play against the AL East has put them in a real awkward place, right? And everyone keeps discounting and writing off the Orioles. The Orioles are a good team. We're at the beginning of August. We got to stop acting like the Orioles are not a good team. But if they win again tonight and pull off a 3-game sweep tomorrow, I never trust the day games, the turnaround for the day games. I just always feel like if the Jays are in a bad spot, the day game curses them. So to me, they got to win tonight. But their play in the AL East has really hurt them again.
It's been terrible in the AL East. And the Orioles, like you mentioned, Brennan, are a nightmare. Mm-hmm. They are a team that I think people don't want them to be good. I'm sorry, they're good. They're very good. And if they spend a single dollar this offseason, they're going to be even better. They have a young core that is the envy of baseball, and they've got a lot of money that they should be able to spend. This team is not going away, which is the scary part if you're the Blue Jays. You have to make sure that the Orioles don't just blow right by you and open up a window of their own in this division. Plus, there's the Rays and the Yankees and the Red Sox. They tend to, be good in the Rays, and the Yankees and Red Sox tend to spend some cash. So this is not a good division to be in right now. And when you look at that 7-22 record, I believe, guys, in the AL East, that's everything. That's it right there. You know, as much as we talk about the expected numbers, hitting with runners in scoring position, some of these issues with Springer, with Vladdy, it's 7-22 in the division. If you even make that a 500 record, then the Blue Jays are comfortable. They are competing for a division, and we're talking about how good they are. We're probably talking about some bigger trades, too. But the division is really holding them down, and a team like the Orioles, it just seems like they are built to expose the Blue Jays' weaknesses right now. These games really show the Blue Jays what they're struggling with.
Yeah, 100%. And that's terrifying for the Blue Jays, too, a team that thought that they'd be in a position in the division that the Orioles are now in August. So, Keegan, this was great, man. I always enjoy reading your work, and I really enjoy talking some baseball with you here on OverDrive.
Hey, you got it, guys. Take care. Thank you.
Keegan Matheson from MLB.com, the Blue Jays reporter. You made a lot of good points, man, about this team right now.
Yeah. It's grim right now, man. There's not a lot to grab onto and say, like, this is the reason why. Like, you know, you can say that the bullpen has been good, right? But you need to be in a winning position for your bullpen to be able to close out games for you. And they're not in that spot enough right now.
And we're talking about mentality constantly with this team, right? Confidence. It's not that often in a 162-game season you're like, this is a must-win baseball game. But to me, this one tonight really does feel like that.
Well, because of what's around the corner, right?
That's exactly
You're
it.
going into Boston, and you got to play at Fenway, and you know that's a team that's right behind you, nipping at your heels, and
they haven't had success with it this year.
no,
They're
and
winless against the Sox.
time to create some separation, and it's not going in the right direction for them.
You know what else is around the corner, buddy? Canada's largest camping and music festival. Boots and Hearts, bud. It returns August 10th to the 13th. Acts this year include the likes of Tim Hicks, Nickelback. You're a big Nickelback guy.
I love
bet,
Nickelback.
Eh?
Yeah, I
100%.
love Nickelback.
I could see that.
Oh,
you
yeah.
take over the room and throw some Nickelback on?
No. But in my own AirPods.
There you go. Keith Urban also doing Boots and Hearts. Tim McGraw, many more. You got a chance to win a pair of weekend passes. This is your cue to call the 10th caller, 417-870-1050. 417? I know I'm the rental rookie guy, but is it not 416?
Man, I had that as a typo yesterday.
Oh
and
my
I didn't
God,
fix it.
buddy.
416-870-1050. 416-870-1050.
You're just like,
there's your number.
You just set me up hey, San Diego, that Ron Burgundy. Let's see if
Rookie
he gets
Frank.
it right.
Yeah, he'll
Honestly.
read anything that's on the prompter.
Just change the
Dunlop's a
number.
TV guy, right? So he'll read anything that's on the prompter.
That's it, bud.
See, I was ripping Tatty earlier in the show. He sidestepped that yesterday. So,
Smart.
anyways, phones are ringing.
professional.
Phone's ringing,
I already knew
Grappler.
that.
You better grab it,
Yeah,
buddy.
the 10th caller, you want to go to Boots and Hearts. We're giving away tickets all week long here on OverDrive. And on Friday, one lucky winner will be upgraded to a sold-out VIP package, which includes front-of-stage viewing, access to the barn and elevated viewing areas, comfort station rooms, washrooms, that is, exclusive food vendors, Daisy Duke's private bar, and exclusive VIP after parties, and more. Boots and Hearts, man, that's a festival. General admission tickets still available at bootsandhearts.com. I've never been, but I got into country kick before the pandemic, like 2016.
Yeah.
Big Florida Georgia Line guy.
Yeah, that's a good gateway into country music.
Kind of poppy still.
Yeah, pop country. But
Mine-
they changed after they had kids. The
Right.
music wasn't the same.
Oh yeah,
No.
I didn't notice that. But
Different.
It was for me. It was like I was a kid from Woodbridge, and then it was moving up to Sudbury. It's like, oh, here, it's country music for you. Now.
I was going to say the same thing. It was
Yeah.
junior hockey for me. That's
Yeah.
all they played in the room was country music. I didn't like it up until that point.
Get used to
I was
it.
like, get used to it. You're not touching the radio, kid. So.
Exactly.
Have you talked with people in their 20s from Woodbridge now? I can't believe how many of them like country.
Swifties. They're all Swifties now.
Could be it too.
Yeah.
I guess that's she's not quite country.
No, she left the country a long time ago.
right.
She's not the Taylor Swift of Teardrops on My Guitar anymore.
That's a good song.
It's a banger.
JP's gonna play that one on the way in for you.
We'll bump in with it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got Antihero in the Rolodex, but that's what I came on to the other day. I'm like, are you trying to tell me something? What's going on here? That
Subliminal
we're just talking
messaging
Women's
from
World Cup.
JP.
I guess him or Matt Cause. I didn't know which one it was.
No, it's always JP's always scheming back there.
Yeah. Do you got a nickname, JP? Like they call it's 20 Fingers in the Morning. What's your nickname?
He's just JP.
He goes, always kind of coined him as JP Barry.
JP Barry.
JP Barry.
Okay.
like the agent.
I like that. Yeah, that works. All right. JP back there.
He's calling the shots. JP calls the shots around here, man. Like the days that we're not on TV, it's because JP took us off TV.
Not the best.
Let's not joke about that. Too many people
Not
are
the
going to take
best.
that seriously and start harassing JP's ex profile.
You can
again.
find JP on JP is Barry
JP's on
1050.
Threads. If you want to get a hold of JP, go on Threads.
People still doing Threads, by the way?
No.
That was like a 1 week, right?
Yeah.
Up and
Less. It was 5 days.
down. There we go. Well, thankfully, we're still doing OverDrive here, boys, and we still got some time to go. Time to take a break on TSN2, TSN Radio 1050, and the iHeartRadio app. Got to let the music breathe a little bit.
I was going to say, our listeners are disappointed that song's just not playing this time.
That's not playing longer, playing out.
Yeah, that
We're
we're
just
talking
doing
now.
tunes. The last 30 minutes, we're doing tunes.
Yeah, JP Barry over there, the music fingers,
Yeah.
all over it. Taking requests, I didn't know that. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll
if you
have
ever have a
to.
request,
I'll have to take advantage this
JP will
week.
play it.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what JP's range is. We'll
Oh,
see.
dude, he's got everything.
I'll get some good stuff. I've got 2 more days this week here in OverDrive, so we'll see. It's Caravana weekend.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get some Marshall Montano in there towards the end. I don't know,
what that
JP.
is.
Get that ready. Get that ready.
I don't know what
I
that
don't know what that is.
JP,
You
I was
lost
just
us.
told JP's off the next 2 days, but that's okay, my friend. Hey, it is the beginning of August. I feel like with you two guys on the show, this is the perfect time to just give all of our hockey predictions,
Already?
right? Some like way too early hockey predictions.
It is really early.
I mean, I can ask you how you think the knockout phase of the Women's World Cup is going to play out, but you're watching Czechia at 3 a.m. You're not watching the Women's World Cup from Australia,
Yeah.
right? So I don't want to put you on the spot. So I figure like play in the wheelhouse, right?
All right.
Play to the strengths. So
You guys have been talking about how summer's almost over. It makes sense that we're giving hockey predictions.
yeah, it never ends, man.
Never ends.
You're working out with all the Oilers, you said right now.
A big contingent of them, yeah.
Does it feel like they ever have like an off-season form?
No.
I feel like they couldn't possibly have off-season form.
No, when McDavid's the captain and you're following McDavid, you show up to summer training in shape.
Oh, man. It's good on you that you're doing that in the morning and then coming in here with us.
Absolutely.
I would be knackered.
Yeah, I'm working a couple jobs.
Oh, buddy.
I got to pay for the training somehow.
Guys working nights, man.
It's not free
Awesome.
to drink that Alp water Gary's got us drinking over there.
Well, we'll see if you'll still be working through the season based off the predictions you give now, my friend, and how
Yeah,
they play
we'll see
out.
what happens.
So how do you want to do this, boys?
Let's do it this way. So what we've done is we've made predictions where we've predicted the divisions, the wild cards, the President's Trophy winners, and the worst record in the National Hockey League.
Oh, I'm excited to hear that one.
So maybe we'll do this. Pete will go first, and then we'll reveal his team. We'll talk about it. I'll go reveal my team. We'll talk about it, and we'll chew the fat on it.
Frankie Corrado, analyst and producer. Here we go, man.
We'll see where we land. This was the Grapplers' idea, so let's give it a run here. See where we're at the beginning of August.
All right, Frank, you're kicking in high gear, my friend. You can bat lead off, buddy.
All right, you want me to go first?
I want to see the Frankie Corrado predictions. Way too early.
All right, so let's start in the Atlantic. I have the Toronto Maple Leafs finishing first in the Atlantic. And I don't know if that's an outlandish take, but the Leafs are a very good regular season team every single year. Boston's going to take a step back. Tampa's going to take a step back. I think Toronto, it's a very good opportunity for them to win the division. I think Tampa's right behind them. And I put the Panthers as the third team in the Atlantic because I want to put some respect on the fact that they went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals last season. And really, when the team was healthy, they actually played quite well once they had all their bodies back. They're not going to start the season healthy, but if they can get everybody back, I don't see why they wouldn't be there. When it comes to the Metro, I just think it's going to be the exact same as last year.
Canes are top, eh?
I think Carolina's a very well-built team.
Yeah.
They got better throughout free agency. New Jersey Devils, same idea. If the goaltending, kind of holds up for them, they're a good team. They're going to have a full year of Timo Meier and all their players at a really nice cap hit. So I like that. The Rangers are the Rangers, man. Like they seem like they're always in the mix. It's hard to count them out. So I have them finishing third in the Metro. I don't think the Islanders get there, although Ilya Sorokin is a goaltender who can certainly bring them there.
Steal some games.
Yeah, and when it comes to the wild card, this may be controversial because I have two kind of aging teams, I guess, if you want to call them, the Penguins and the Bruins, finishing in the wild card positions. I just think the Bruins don't fall off that much.
Right.
Like for them, 40 points, 40 less points still gets them 95 points and should get them in the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Penguins is the one I kind of struggled with, like between them and the Ottawa Senators, right? Like who would make the playoffs between both of them. Kyle Dubas is in Pittsburgh now. If there's one thing Kyle Dubas has done well throughout his career is he's built very strong regular season teams.
Yeah.
I think going there, like Mike Sullivan is a very good coach. I could see Pittsburgh turning it around and making the playoffs again. The Ottawa Senators, I wouldn't be surprised if they got in the playoffs. I also wouldn't be surprised if they missed by like 1 point. Like that's how close I think it comes down to. Like you look at the average age on this Ottawa team. On the blue line, it's just over 25. Up front, it's just over 25.
Yeah.
Like it is a very young team. It's very promising. I expect them to be there, but yeah, I don't know. That's August 1st, and that's maybe their safe picks, maybe their controversial picks, but here we are.
I like them. Sends on a knife's edge, in my opinion, too, to make the playoffs.
Very close, right on the bubble. And I think Buffalo is right there as well. Buffalo finished with more points than Ottawa. I just listen, there's a lot of good players in Buffalo. It's just going to be does the goaltending hold up this year for them?
Pete, how about you, man?
Well, we got a lot of similar picks here. I'm noticing a lot.
I saw you taking notes while Frankie was talking.
Well, I was starting to write them down, and then I realized that I had the cheat board on my laptop. But I'm with Frankie. We'll start in the Atlantic. I got the Leafs coming out on top. I believe with the additions this offseason, I think we're going to see a little bit of a different brand of Leaf hockey than we've seen maybe the past few years.
They need it.
Maybe a little bit of reminiscent of Tucker and the Corson and Gary Roberts days, bringing in Max Domi. And
I can hear Woodbridge getting excited in their cars driving right now.
Yeah. So I got the Leafs at the top here, and then I got the Tampa Bay Lightning behind them. They've just been a powerhouse for so long. They still got some great talent in there. I like them next. Florida, they're not going anywhere. Cup final. My only concern with them is, as Frankie mentioned, they're most likely not starting the season healthy. So how can they weather that storm? But I think there's no question that that they're in and they're solidified in the Atlantic. Carolina next. These guys are so tough to play against.
Yeah.
Like, they just have that Rod Brindamore identity where they don't
100%.
give you anything offensively. And I also really like their cap structure. Like, it's very divided amongst their dressing room, and guys are in very similar spots. So I don't know. I really like them. I really like them to be cup contenders again. New Jersey, I mean, they're a great young team. I really like the addition of Toffoli as well. He's coming off one of his better years, so I think he's only going to help them offensively. Pittsburgh, I mean, Sidney Crosby doesn't miss the playoffs 2 years in a row.
No.
I was similar to Frankie where I'm like, Ottawa, yeah, I like the direction they're trending, but I just can't rule Sid out for another year. I think he makes it into the postseason. Boston, wild card spot. I think they have the ability to not be a wild card. I think they have the ability to just be in without it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going anywhere. Like, they're the Boston Bruins, man. They just find a way.
Pencil them in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then with the Islanders, I really like their depth. I really like that they have Cal Clutterbuck, Matt Martin, Casey Cizikas on their fourth line. I just feel like those guys just grind teams down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the depth you need, especially in the postseason. I think those guys help them get there, and then I think they can surprise teams in the postseason. So I like the Islanders.
Matt Martin, great hair. I went to high school with him, actually.
Oh, yeah?
A few years younger than me.
Windsor
yeah.
guy?
He might could take
Windsor, Ontario.
he could take some tips from you.
For the hair, you
Yeah.
think? Yeah. I like the freedom of radio hair, but I like the freedom of it. But I don't. If I was a Leaf or if I played for Lou, I wouldn't be able to have flow like this.
No,
right?
that's too long for Lou.
I couldn't
He would
pitch for
tell
the
you to get
Yankees,
a
and I couldn't
haircut.
play for Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah,
That's,
we had a guy get called up from the Marlies once, and his hair was a little long, and Lou told him, like, if you don't get a haircut this afternoon, don't bother showing up to the game tonight.
Because I don't know if you're trying to test me or not, but you should probably get a haircut.
Yeah. Were you in the room for that?
Oh yeah, TJ Brennan.
Oh man,
TJ Brennan. I think I'm no joke. I'm pretty sure he was rocking a mullet at the time. Like, not like a completely.
Wasn't an aggressive.
It wasn't an aggressive one. It wasn't like some Ron Duguay or like some throwback of Jaromir Jagr.
it
But
wasn't in fashion. It's in fashion now.
It was a
Everyone's
modern mullet.
I don't think it's ever in Lou's fashion.
No,
No.
it wouldn't be at all.
Yeah. Islanders, like, for me, it's Sorokin that could bring them to the playoffs. I wonder if they could score enough to get there. But listen, when you look at the Eastern Conference, there's going to be a lot of good teams that miss the playoffs this year. And Carlo talked about some of the teams that might be pushing. Like, he even mentioned Detroit. Detroit's a few years away, but like, we both didn't have Buffalo. I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo made the playoffs. Like, that Tage Thompson.
Oh, he can carry that team.
Like Alex Tuck and those two guys on the back end in Dahlin and Power are such studs. Like, they do have a good thing going. There's going to be good teams that miss the playoffs this year. I just don't know if it's going to be the young teams or the older teams. We've kind of gone with the older teams, so I guess the passing of the torch isn't happening yet in the Eastern Conference in our eyes.
Petey leaving the Rangers off though.
Yeah,
Former alma mater team. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
not a believer in the Rangers. They're just always there. They're just always there.
They've become part of the furniture. That's part of the problem in New York. 'Cause
Yeah.
They can't get over it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice second round exit from the Rangers. You can pencil that into your spring plans.
Should we get to the West?
Show me the West.
All right,
I mean, I've already seen it. Anyone watching on TSN2 has already seen it, but show me again.
All right, let's get
Give
to
me
the
the
West.
explainer.
Let's get to the Western Conference. I'll start in the Central. I have the Dallas Stars finishing first. I like the way they play as a team. I think the addition of Matt Duchene is going to help them. I think for Matt Duchene, for him to be on a winning team and actually have that team win is going to go a long way for him. It's probably something that he aspires to achieve. The Colorado Avalanche in second. That's more like, I believe in McKinnon, I believe in Rantanen and Cale Makar. I'm not convinced that the Colorado Avalanche are better this year than they were last year. I'm really not. Like, I'm not sold on Ryan Johansson quite yet.
Yeah.
I like some of the depth moves that they made. Like, the one was Ross Colton and Miles Wood, like some physical guys. And then Minnesota Wild, their cap, really kind of screws them up because they have all that dead money on the books. But it doesn't seem like they're going to have Matt Dumba back. But up front, like, that's still a very good team, and I think there's a lot of internal growth there. Like, Kaprizov is not getting any worse. Matt Boldy's a really good player. As far as two-way centers in the NHL go, like, Joel Eriksson-Ek is right up there. So I just kind of see them as a hard team to play against, and they're a team that drafts well, develops talent well, and they build from within. So I could see them finishing third in the Central. Looking at the Pacific, Vegas isn't going anywhere. Like it'll TBD on what Mark Stone's year looked like and how much he's able to play. I know he really battled the back, and there's a lot of talk about will he play, won't he play, but Vegas is a good team without Mark Stone. I expect them to finish first in that division. Oilers have to be there. They just have to be, and they should be competing for a Stanley Cup. There's a few holes in their lineup still. Like they need some bigger bodies on the back end, and up front. Lower in the lineup, they need, like Bugstad and Klim Kostin, I think brought a lot to that forward group. On the back end, I think they would like to push Cody Ceci maybe lower into that lineup. There's nothing wrong with Cody Ceci, but if you can bring someone in that maybe he's not playing on your first pair with Darnell Nurse, it just adds that much depth. And the Seattle Kraken, are a very well-coached team.
Yeah.
Very structured team, very balanced attack. I expect that to continue. I have the LA Kings finishing the first wild card spot in the West, mostly because I think LA is a better team than they were last year. The addition of Dubois helps. I don't know who's going to stop pucks for them. Like Cam Talbot, it didn't go well for him in Ottawa last season. Is he going to be your starter? Like I'm not sold on that. They're a good defensive team, but I don't believe in it yet. And I have Winnipeg making the playoffs just by like the slimmest of margins. And mostly that's just because I believe in Rick Bowness as a coach, and I believe he can get the most out of that group. And bringing in Iafallo and Velarde, they're not just young pieces that are going to help down the road, years down the road. They can help right now. And, I feel like with the way things ended for Winnipeg, there's going to be a lot of players in that room that have a lot to play for, especially with some of them, with unrestricted free agency coming up down the road.
They got a lot to play for, a lot to prove after the way things ended last year. I thought there'd be a lot more movement in Winnipeg this summer.
It's tough to make deals with the cap. It's tough to make deals with
Winnipeg.
Just geographically, right? Like it is tough to acquire certain players. It's not for everyone, but listen, man, you're not, you're going to get excellent fan support playing in Winnipeg. They love that team, and Rick Bowness is an excellent coach to play for.
Well, we're pretty similar again, Frankie. I got to say, we got a lot of similarities here on our list.
This is what happens when you don't do pre-show meetings.
Yeah,
you guys got to pick a lot of.
I wasn't gonna
picked out our outfits together.
There's one more Canadian team in the West there. Peter's got
one more. No, I got Dallas coming out on top here. I really like this team. They're sort of like a sneaky team to me because they don't get a ton of attention, but I also find them a tough team to play against, and they got some skill up there. That Jason Robertson is coming off an incredible year. Look for him to continue his torrid offensive pace, and obviously the pickup in Duchesne, as Frankie mentioned. I really like that. The Avalanche are the Avalanche. With McKinnon leading that ship right now, with Gabe Landeskog out, their captain. They're always going to be right there. So I like the Avalanche. Minnesota, man, they got the Pat Maroon factor. Yeah. They pick up Patty Maroon. That guy just wins.
So they're going to the final.
Automatically, that team is in the playoffs. So I like the Wild. In the Pacific, Golden Knights, Stanley Cup champions, they're not going anywhere. They're going to be a cup contender again for me. They have a very similar roster coming back this year that they did last year. So I actually like them to defend the Stanley Cup, similar to what Tampa did. Edmonton's going to be right there. You got Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Need I say more? They're for sure in the playoffs. Seattle Kraken, they are building a culture of work ethic all the way through their lineup. And that's going to make them a really tough team down the stretch. So I like them in the postseason. I got Winnipeg just because I still like their big names. I know that there's been some internal controversy there, but I still think that their big names can get it done. So I like them getting into the wild card. And then a little bit of a sleeper pick for me with Calgary. I just think that there's some guys there that want to have a little bit of a resurgence this season. Mm-hmm. I think Huberdeau is going to come out and have a better year.
So do I.
So
Markstrom, man, if Markstrom has a big year, if he plays like a $6 million goalie, that team has a chance every day, every game that they're playing.
Yeah,
he's good.
And they got Ryan Huska back there, the head coach. New coach, new voice. Sometimes that can be good for players. So I think I like them as a little bit of a sleeper here to get into the postseason.
Oh, nice. All right, Grappler, we got time for one more category.
I mean, if you guys want to unveil your President's Trophy picks and your worst record in the NHL selection, I think
that's the big one.
All right,
what the fans want.
I think that's what everyone's waiting for.
All right. I have Carolina Hurricanes winning the President's Trophy. I know the Metro's a strong division, but they just got better and better. They added Orlov, they added Bunting. I think both players really fit into what they're trying to do. The other thing is they're 3 NHL goaltenders deep, and not just like fringe NHL guys, like really good NHL guys. And if Renta gets hurt or Anderson gets hurt, Kochetkov is a very good goaltender.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the Carolina Hurricanes winning the President's Trophy, which unfortunately for them means they probably don't win the Stanley Cup, because the last time that happened was Chicago, I believe in 2012, 2013, that a team that wins the President's Trophy wins the Stanley Cup. Worst record, listen, you're looking for a team that wants to be bad this year, it's probably the Philadelphia Flyers. And I know Torts, I played for Torts. He's going to have that team competitive every night as much as they possibly can. But Danny Briere has kind of said, like, they have the appetite for a complete rebuild. Well, part of rebuilding is stripping it down and finishing last place in the standings every once in a while. And I could see the Philadelphia Flyers being there.
My pick for the President's Trophy is Vegas. As I just said, I believe that they're going to take a good run at defending the Stanley Cup. They have a very similar team coming back that they're going to put on the ice next year. So I don't see any reason for them not to win the President's Trophy. The only question mark for me will just be fatigue. But Tampa did it a few years ago, so I don't really know if that's an excuse. My prediction for who's going to be drafting first overall at the next NHL draft is the Columbus Blue Jackets. I know it's a lottery, but I do believe that they're going to finish dead last.
Who's coaching there?
Frankie almost fell out of his seat.
With the best opportunity. They finished last season in a tie with Chicago for next to last, ahead of only Anaheim. And I just think that they're going to be on pace to do what the Leafs did back in the rebuild with Mike Babcock at the helm.
You think they got the right coach for it?
I think he has a recipe for success of getting a first overall pick.
The thing is, I don't know if they have an appetite to be a bad team. Like Jarmo,
I'm not saying they have an appetite for it.
You just think it's out of their control and they're not going to be very good. I just think
that there is the Mike Babcock factor where some of their top players don't know what that's like to handle him.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see what happens, but they're my prediction.
Yeah. I love it. That's a bold one, man.
Also,
I don't hate it either.
Very professionally done there, Pete.
Yeah.
That was outstanding, my friend.
Very diplomatic.
OverDrive brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We got more to bring you on the other side. This is OverDrive on TSN 2 and TSN Radio 1050. Oh, country o'clock, eh? I don't even know who that is, Grappler. Do you know who that is? You've got to be a country guy.
Not at all. Not even
That's
a little
Luke
bit.
Bryan, I believe.
That is Luke Bryan?
Luke Bryan. JP, thumbs up from JP.
Oh, wow. I think I saw Luke Bryan at Bud Stage once as well.
Yeah?
Yeah, my old...
Clearly not a fan.
Yeah.
My old partner, Jackie Redmond. No, but I wanted to see Florida Georgia Line. I also saw Florida Georgia Line there as well.
Same show? You saw both those acts?
No, that would be
Okay.
that's a monster
That's
show.
two headliners right there.
That's too big. Speaking of the headline closer, Grappler, this is your time, bud.
Yes, sir. It's time for the FanDuel Best Bets, and today's Best Bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. We are looking ahead to the Wyndham Championship at Sedgefield Golf Club, the final regular season tournament of the PGA ahead of the start of the FedEx Cup playoffs next week. And it is slim pickings, not the strongest field, but we grind on and we try to make people some money here. We got Sunjay M finishing top 20, little Canadian flavor. Adam Hadwin finishing top 40, and Sam Burns also finishing top 40. This isn't a part of my picks, but Justin Thomas is also in the field, who it's actually shocking how far he's fallen and the fact that he's even playing in this tournament. For anyone looking to bet on Justin Thomas to miss the cut, that's listed at minus 215 on FanDuel.
Oh my God.
Which it's
that's disgusting.
Like, and the sad part is, I don't want to disrespect him by actually having as a part of these official best bets. But it feels like it's a lock to miss the cut. Like his game is just it's a disaster.
Wow.
He said he's like a couple swings away from putting it together, being like top 15.
I've been a couple swings away since I was. I've been a couple swings away since I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
Anyways, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Bet on star players to score, assist, or have a shot on goal in a soccer same-game parlay. Please play responsibly, 18 plus, and physically located in Ontario.
This was a very professional and respectful show.
Yeah.
Like he says, I feel bad. I don't want to bet against the guy, but it just seems like a guy that bet's going to cash in.
Lot of
He also, it's a
decorum here.
lock.
As does Vegas. Just lay the juice minus 210. Boys, this was a lot of fun. Maybe one day I'll go golfing with you guys, but I'd rather share the ice with you. If there's like a charity tournament, you need a really slow guy, or you need someone to do announcements, call me
Love
up.
it, buddy. We'll keep it in
Okay.
mind for sure. Yeah,
Sounds
it's good
good.
stuff today.
All right. Well, I'm back tomorrow, apparently. So this has been OverDrive. I hope you enjoyed this show, and we'll see you again tomorrow.